Hello guys, welcome to today's series on IIM Kozhikode verbal ability. Okay, so we are dealing with today we are going to study model questions on idioms. So generally, what are these idioms? Idioms are nothing but expressions whose meanings are not to be taken literal. Okay, they are just understood through a common usage. Um for example, kick the bucket means to die, but not actually kicking the bucket. And in the same way, spill the beans is to reveal a secret. Okay, so in this video, we are going to learn some of the new idiomatic expressions and the models of questions that you might face in these exams. Okay, in this exam, right? Yeah. So generally, how can you? What is the strategy that you need to apply? First of all, don't translate them literally. If you have any idea about idioms, I think that's a given. They're just only figurative. Okay, you just visualize or associate them in a image or a story. Okay, when you learn idioms, try to learn them with some kind of stories and always remember that they are always present in context. They cannot be used in isolation. Okay, and you can always practice some exercises in internet or your books. Okay, and of course, when you wanna remember it for a long time, if you start using them in your own sentences, it would stick in your mind for a longer period. Okay, let's learn some idioms today. So, when someone says that he burns midnight oil, that means he works late in the night. Okay, bite the bullet is when you accept something painful or unpleasant, right? You don't really bite the bullet, you will die, right? But if you do that, it would be very painful or unpleasant, right? Let the cat out of the bag is to reveal a secret. Okay, the cat is the secret. Try to remember that way. On cloud nine is when you're like extremely happy, so you're there in the clouds. But why nine? I don't know. Okay. uh, hit the nail on the head. Say exactly the that is to say exactly the right thing. So when you try to remember it this way, when you just give it to the point, it might hit some people, right? So just think that when you are hitting someone's head, you're saying the right thing. Okay, so hit the nail on the head means to say the right thing. Okay, let's look at some exercises now. What does the idiom break the ice mean? Okay, if ever you have been to any new institute or college or in school itself, if you change a section, I think ice breaking is something you must have heard about. So is it to break something cold? No, figuratively. We are speaking figuratively, not literally. So try to have that in mind while choosing the options. To start a conversation in a social setting, yes. Okay. To argue with someone, no. To panic in a tough situation, no. Okay. Ice-breaking sessions, you must have heard about this. You must have listened this somewhere. Ice-breaking session is when you're trying to socialize people. Okay, when you're trying to socialize people, that is your ice-breaking. So it's to start a conversation in a social setting. Okay, what does the idiom throw in the towel mean? Okay, can you guess? To give up or surrender, to clean a mess, to start fresh, to throw garbage away, right? So it's A, to give up or surrender. Okay, to quit is to throw in the towel. When you quit, that means you throw in the towel. Let's look at some more. Okay, now this is used in a sentence. Okay, previously we have dealt with idioms and their meanings. Now we are going to see how can they be used in sentence. When he met his old friend unexpectedly at the airport, he truly believed it was a case of dash. Hit the sack, let the cat out of the bag, once in a blue moon, beat around the bush. See, I think once in a blue moon is something you must have heard. Okay, so it is something very rare, right? What is beating around the bush when you don't come to the main point? Is that applicable here? No. And we have just learned that to let the cat out of the bag is to reveal a secret, right? So what would it be? Right? It would be once in a blue moon because that is something which happens very, very rarely. He met an old friend that too unexpectedly at an airport. So the situation he described is, it's very rare. That's why we say once in a blue moon. Yeah. She was dash after getting accepted into her dream college. Under the weather. Okay, do you know what under the weather means? Under the weather means to get sick. Or when you are sick, you say that I am under the weather. Okay. Up in the air, on cloud nine, skating on thin ice. So, if you remember, we just learned that on cloud nine means to be extremely happy. Obviously, it was her dream college. So, she would be very, very happy. So, hence, C would be your answer. Next. Okay. So, we also learned what's bite the bullet, right? What is bite the bullet? When you accept something that is very unpleasant, right? Hard and unpleasant. So, which sentence, okay, which sentence uses this idiom correctly? Okay, let's look at the options. She bit the bullet and told the truth despite the consequences. Yes, this is very harsh, this is very bitter. He bit the bullet and ate the last donut. No, they bit the bullet and danced to the blues music, but there is nothing unpleasant here, right? We bit the bullet and painted the walls red. No, I think contextually A fits better than any other. Maybe if you indirectly wanna squeeze some meaning out of that, you might see something, but try to see contextually which is closer. This one, A, right? She bit the bullet and told the truth despite the consequences. It's clearly mentioned here, right? Don't think about the other options which also can be true, which seem to be true. Just think about the answer which is closer, which is more appropriate. Okay. Yeah, under the weather. Yeah, I think in the previous slide we have learned about this, right? Yeah, I'm under the weather because it's raining outside. Again, don't take literal meanings, it's all figurative. She was under the weather after her vacation. He felt under the weather and took a day off. The weather put me under today. Okay, I think A and D are pretty obvious. Okay. She was under the weather after her vacation. Yeah, she might be sick, we don't know, but he felt under the weather and took a day off is something which is very closer, right? When you are sick, you take a day off, you call off, you stay at home, right? So as this is more contextually closer, let's go with C. And it is C. Okay, when you are feeling sick or are unwell, it is under the weather. Okay. Yeah, let's look at, you might be also asked idioms in the matching form. So let's look at some idioms. Okay, to hit the sack means to go to sleep. Okay, I think we have seen this option. To hit the sack is to go to sleep. Next, jump the gun. If you know what's jump the gun, it's when you start anything too early. Okay, jump, you're like not training on punches and anything, you're just directly taking the gun. Okay, maybe you can remember it like this. When you miss the boat, that means it's to miss an opportunity. Okay, when you miss the boat, it's like to miss an opportunity. Put all eggs in one basket is to take a risk, because when you put all your eggs in one basket, for example, if you know anything about investments, they say that when you buy shares, don't buy it only from a single company, always divide your shares. That means because if the company collapses, you lose a lot. So if you put all your eggs only in one basket, that means you're taking a huge risk, right? Okay, let's look at some more. Yeah, so what you can do is, maybe not for this exam, but in future if you want to learn idioms, you can make an idiom notebook. You can also buy books. There are books which purely contain only idioms and their meanings, like a dictionary. Okay. You can watch English shows with subtitles and learn from that. You can quiz yourself, play some games. Okay. Yeah, so this is your homework. You can just pause your screen, take a screenshot and try to work on it later, because if I only keep telling and if you only keep listening to me, when will you work and when will you show some interest, right? I'm just kidding, but take it as a challenge and do it. Okay, chalo. Now let's move on to phrasal verbs. So what are these phrasal verbs? It's nothing but a combination of verb and a preposition, or sometimes adverb, and that generally creates a new word. See, often we see breakdown means stop working. Break up means to separate. Break away is also to separate, but it's used in different context. So the thing is, this might remain same. Okay, the verb might remain same, but the preposition or adverb, it can keep changing, and the meanings also keep change. Put off is to postpone. Put up is to bear, and um, yeah, put out is to cancel, something like that. Call off is to cancel. Call out is to call someone out, something like that, shout out. Okay, so as the verb remains the same, but when it comes to these adverbs or prepositions, as they keep changing, the meaning also changes. So they are phrasal verbs. Let's look more. So she called off the meeting. Let's just look at some phrases. Okay, she called off the meeting. That means she cancelled the meeting. The car broke down means it ceased to function, generally due to some mechanical issue. They put off the trip means they cancelled the trip. He ran into an old friend. That is when he met the old friend unexpectedly. Okay, he ran into. He didn't know he was going to, but he just met him unexpectedly. Right? Yeah. Learn them in context, not in isolation. That way you will remember them for longer periods of time. Group them by verb. Okay. So when it's get, you learn about get over, get along, get with it, get in, get into. Okay. You can group them by verb and learn like that. Make sentences and yeah, use eliminations. Let's look at some more phrasal verbs. Okay. To break down is to call off is to cancel, to break down is to stop function, we have just seen in the other cases. To put up with is to tolerate. I put up with you a lot, but you don't recognize it. You can just try to establish in your mind with sentences. To come across is to find by chance. To bring up is to mention or raise a topic. To look into is to investigate. Okay, I will look into this matter. That means I'm going to investigate in this matter. Given is to surrender. Okay, or yield. Given is to surrender. See, the goal of this video is to revise some of the phrasal verbs and let you know these are the models that you might face in exam. Okay, let's look at the questions now. She came across her childhood diary while cleaning. She came across her childhood diary. So what is it we just learned? That she found it by chance. Did she bring, lost, ignored? No. Right? She just found it by chance. The event was called off due to rain. Postponed, ignored, cancelled, moved indoors. So this is the time when you might, confuse, like due to rain, it can be postponed, it can be cancelled. So it's not always that you can find the right answer through context. You should be aware about the meaning. So called off is to cancel. Okay. Put off is to postpone. Remember, call off is to cancel, put off is to postpone. Yeah. He couldn't dash the pain of the injury any longer. He couldn't. We have learned the idiom, the phrasal verb meaning, right? Put up with. Put up with is to tolerate. Right? So he couldn't put up with the pain of the injury any longer. The teacher asked her to dash the topic during the discussion. Give up is to, right? Give up is the most common phrasal verb that you guys use. Come down with is when you are sick. Okay. She came down with fever. He came down with cold. That's how you use that phrasal verb. Okay. Taken is when you take people into your home and give them shelter, something like that. So it's bring up. She asked her to bring up the topic. Okay. Yeah, this is something new, because there can be such questions, okay, where you have to spot the error in the usage of the phrasal verb. She broke up the pressure and left the meeting. See, you might understand what it means, but the task here is to identify or spot the error in which part of the sentence is it you have to do that. So it should be in A, because broke up is not the actual word. It should be she gave in to the pressure. Okay. So these kinds of questions might also come up. Be vigilant about this. Okay. Let's look at some commonly confused phrasal verbs here. Give up is to quit, and given is to surrender. There is a difference between quitting and surrendering. Okay. Look over is to review, but when it comes to look into, it's to investigate. Bring up is to mention, when bring out is to publish or highlight. These are commonly confused phrasal verbs. Have these in mind. Next, let's learn some more. Okay, this is matching. Run out of is, I think this is pretty easy. Run out of is when you exhaust your supply. Get over is to recover from something. Look after is when you take care of something. And make up is when you invent. He made up a story, right? That's how you do it. He made up a story, she made up a story, right? Make up is to invent or reconcile. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So let's learn about proverbs. Idioms and phrasal verbs are something common that you might encounter in your exams, but proverbs can also be a part we don't know. So let's just be careful and let's just know some of the famous proverbs here. Okay. So what is the definition of a proverb? It's just a short, well-known saying. See, proverbs are nothing but they are just well-known sayings. Okay, that express a general truth, principle, piece of advice, and they're often based on common sense. Okay, proverbs are often metaphorical and are used to convey life lessons, and that too in a simple language. Okay, I think you can easily identify them if you're someone who reads books and who communicates in English on a regular basis or who watches English movies. It's very easy for you to identify these. Okay. Understand the meaning, not just memorize them. When you want to learn proverbs, these are the things that you have to keep in mind. You can relate them to real life, uh, yeah. Let's look at some proverbs. Actions speak louder than words. I don't think there is a need to explain specifically. Better late than never is, when you do something, it's better than not doing it at all, because later you're going to regret, what if I had done it, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. Is don't form opinions based on appearance, right? When you just look at one building and think, okay, in this restaurant the food would be amazing, but once you step in and taste the food, right, sometimes it turns out that it's disgusting. So then you will learn the lesson that don't judge the book by its cover. A stitch in time saves time. Solving a problem early prevents bigger ones. Okay, this is very, very important life lesson. And you can't have your cake and eat it too. Yeah. You can't enjoy two conflicting benefits at once. Okay, only you will, many times in life you have to choose, and you can only choose one. MCQ exercise, let's see. Okay. What does too many cooks spoil the broth mean? Cooking should be done by professionals. No, please see, the easy elimination for such kind of questions would be when it's speaking about the literal meaning of the phrasal verb or proverb here. Okay, so you can eliminate that. Delegation is necessary? No. Everyone should help in the kitchen? No. It's too many people when involved can ruin the result. Okay, that's what it's saying, right? Too many cooks can spoil the broth, right? So it's C. Next, when in Rome, do as Romans do. Means don't go to Rome. again a contextual, a literal thing that you can just eliminate. Always follow your culture. If it's always follow your culture, even in Rome, be an Indian. That would be something like that, right? So it's not this. Respect local customs and adapt to them. Be silent in unfamiliar places. No. I think this is also pretty easy to find out through elimination, right? Yeah, respect local customs. When you go to Rome, be a Roman. Follow their culture, greet them in their language. Okay, something like that. Okay. Yeah, this is one more model that you can encounter in your exam. I know we are running late, but let's go anyway. Time and tides waits for none. Better late than never. A bird in hand is worth two in the bush. Fortune favors the brave. Okay, so this is about they are running late, but let's go anyway, because it's better to do something than not doing it at all. So what would that be? Better late than never, right? Don't decide based on her outfit. Remember, we have just discussed this, right? Look before you leap, no. A stitch in time, no. Don't judge a book by its cover, okay? Don't judge her based on her appearance, based on her outfit, right? Option C would be the right answer. Let's see some more meanings. Okay, this is matching that you might come across. Yeah. So Rome wasn't built in a day. Obviously, great things take time, right? Honesty is the best policy. Integrity leads to trust. Pen is mightier than sword. Words have more power than violence. Okay, remember this. Pen is always mightier than a sword. This was generally used during the French Revolution, where they published a lot of intellectual books. That's how this has come into picture. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, don't rely on a single option. We have already seen this in the previous slide, right? To put all your eggs in one basket is to take a huge risk. So don't do that. Yeah. Okay, let's see some theme-based proverbs. Time is time and tide wait for none. That is to tell you that time always runs away. Okay, you have to be the one to be quick. Effort, no pain, no gain. I think there is no explanation needed here. Caution, look before you leap. So always check before you take a step. Honesty is the best policy. Good things come to those who wait. And this too shall pass. Okay, these are some of the famous proverbs that you need to have an idea. Okay, why don't you take this as your homework? Okay, just take a screenshot and try to complete it, know the meaning. Okay, yeah. So I hope you are following these videos. I hope you are learning something or the other from these videos. Okay, prepare well. Okay, see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.